happy Thanksgiving month, which you know what that means. Obviously, being more aware of gratitude and thankfulness, but it also means Thanksgiving deliciousness is coming our way. So I actually went online and I looked up what are the most popular recipes that people are Googling for like their Thanksgiving table. And it's the obvious: mashed potatoes, gravy, stuffing, all of that. So we're gonna be making some side dishes today. I am gonna go a little off the path and I'm making a couple of different ones, but I'm also making some classics. We're gonna be doing some whipped mashed potatoes, and then we also have a delicious, easy mac and cheese. It's definitely gonna be worth watching. And if we haven't met before, my name is Ange, welcome, and this is the Menu Made Kitchen. All right, to start off our first recipe, I'm sharing this easy, creamy stovetop mac and cheese. Now, I don't know about you, but mac and cheese was not part of our Thanksgiving table when I was growing up. It wasn't really introduced to my world until I got married, and my husband's family always did mac and cheese. And now it's just something that my daughter has grown up with and she expects it every year. This recipe is awesome. But let me tell you why I don't like a lot of mac and cheese recipes, especially the ones that go into the oven and are baked. When you do that, all of the creaminess and cheesiness gets absorbed into the noodles, and then it's not creamy and cheesy anymore. That's what I love about this stovetop version. It is so creamy and cheesy and absolutely delicious. I know you're gonna love it. So for our easy stovetop mac and cheese, I'm gonna start by cooking my pasta, and I'm using the cavatappi is what it's called. I can actually find this in the bulk section at my grocery store. I just really like the shape, but you can definitely do macaroni. I'm gonna bring my water to a boil, and then we need to add some salt. I'm gonna cook the noodles about 6 to 8 minutes, just al dente. We definitely don't wanna overcook the noodles. In the meantime, we're gonna move over to our little saucepan and get our breadcrumbs toasted. Okay, while our noodles are boiling, I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of butter to my saucepan. And I forgot to mention, the same pot that I'm using to boil the noodles, I'm actually gonna do the whole mac and cheese, just so I don't have to dirty extra pots. So if you have a pot that serves as both, that would be great. All right, so get this nice and melted. I don't know if I mentioned, I have this on medium heat. And while that melts, let me tell you about my breadcrumbs. So I'm doing 3/4 cup of panko breadcrumbs. And then I just added a little bit of parsley, onion powder, garlic powder, and paprika to taste. So use as much or as little as you want. I did about a half a teaspoon of dried parsley, and then just maybe 1/8 a teaspoon of the other ingredients. I don't want this heavily seasoned, just a touch. Breadcrumbs go in. And then basically we just want to toast this. We want the crumbs to be toasty and kind of golden brown. And we're going to use this obviously to sprinkle over the top of the mac and cheese. So this is a step you don't have to do. If you don't like that little bit of crunch on top, then just skip the step altogether and the mac and cheese will still be delicious. Okay, I'll let that hang out there for a sec while I check my pasta. Okay, our noodles and breadcrumbs are setting aside. I'm gonna add 3 more tablespoons to my saucepan, like I said, the one that I did the noodles in. And I have the heat on low. My pan's still a little bit warm from cooking the noodles. All right, and then I have 3 tablespoons of flour, all-purpose flour. We're gonna whisk this together until it's kind of like a smooth paste is what we're going for. And then that'll cook out all the raw flour taste. Now that that's pretty much smooth, let me grab my milk. So I've got 2.5 cups of whole milk, and we're just gonna slowly add it and kind of whisk at the same time. It's gonna look kind of lumpy, but don't worry, as you continue to whisk this and the milk heats up, it will completely melt all those little lumps away. Okay. And then for my seasonings, I'm gonna add in 1 teaspoon of ground mustard. I have a half a teaspoon of salt and a half a teaspoon of pepper. And we'll go ahead and give this a taste once everything is pulled together if we need to add more salt, but you can't take it away, so that's why we're only doing a half a teaspoon at this point. Plus we cooked our noodles in salted water, and the breadcrumbs are cooked with salted butter, so. Okay, I'm gonna turn the heat up to medium. We wanna bring this to a light boil, and once it starts boiling, it'll start thickening. Once it's thickened, then we're gonna move over to the cutting board, and then we'll start adding our cheeses. Okay, so really important, once this is thickened, you want to pull it off the heat. So we are going to add 2 different kinds of cheeses. I've got sharp cheddar, 1.5 cups, and I have 3 cups of Gruyere cheese. And this is where you can really get creative with the flavors that you use. Sharp cheese is obviously a classic mac and cheese, but you could do like a smoked Gouda, Parmesan, Monterey Jack cheese. So we're going to add the cheddar cheese first and stir that in. If you add all the cheese at the same time, it'll be kind of lumpy, so we're just going to do one at a time. It already is like melting instantly because our sauce is so hot. Okay, that looks good. Now let's add in our Gruyere. Oh my gosh. Get me some French bread. It's like a fondue. And a little tip for you, it really is best if you can add more of like a room temperature cheese than if you shred your cheese and add it in cold. It will just melt so much faster and you'll just have a much smoother sauce like that. Okay, let me grab my noodles. All right, well, I added my noodles and so I completely forgot to push record, but our noodles are in there. You can see that. Now, I did not rinse my noodles. I just drained them. So really important, you want kind of that starch left on the noodles because the cheese will adhere to the pasta much better. I mean, oh my gosh, does that not look amazing? Oh, so cheesy, so creamy. This is not going to be dry mac and cheese right here. All right, I'm going to grab a casserole dish. Now you can definitely serve it in this and spread the breadcrumbs over the top if you want to keep it really casual, but I am going to put it in a dish just to make it look pretty. It is Thanksgiving. All right, we've got our breadcrumbs here and we'll just sprinkle it over the top. And you can do as little or as much as you want. You can reserve a little bit for, you know, people that might want to have extra crumbs if you just want there to be a light little garnish, which I think that's what I'm going to do just because I don't want to cover up the beautiful mac and cheese look. So we'll just do that for now. That looks perfect. Okay, this is ready to eat. Okay, check this out. I added a few more breadcrumbs to the top of mine just because I really like that little bit of crunch. Plus the flavor of the breadcrumbs are just so delicious, even though it was very simple. Also, I feel like the lighting in here, it's like it's 7 o'clock at night, but it's only 12:30 in the afternoon. It's so dark outside and rainy and dreary and windy. So a perfect day for mac and cheese, but this will also be absolutely wonderful on your Thanksgiving table. I am telling you, it is so creamy. This is absolutely amazing. Very decadent, special to have on a special occasion, but you know what? I would definitely make this for a weeknight and grill up some chicken or a roasted chicken. The flavor is just perfectly cheesy. And like I said, the breadcrumbs just offer a little bit of flavor, but more just that buttery crunch. This is phenomenal and incredibly easy to throw together. And you feel like you're having like mac and cheese from a 5-star restaurant. My husband and my daughter are gonna love this for Thanksgiving, especially my daughter because she loves mac and cheese. I'm super excited for you guys to try this one. All right, so for our roasted veggie couscous with spiced pecans, I've already gotten my veggies ready. I did my sweet potatoes, so I have 2 medium-sized sweet potatoes here, and I just diced these into like 1/2-inch cubes. You don't want them to be like huge chunks because we are going to be putting it in with the couscous. And then I diced up a whole red onion, kind of the same size. So I'm going to add this entire bowl here to my sheet pan lined with paper. And then I've got some spices. We're going to do a 1/2 teaspoon of cumin, a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. I have a 1/4 teaspoon of smoked paprika and a 1/2 teaspoon each of salt and pepper. I'm just going to give this a little mix up here before I add it to my veggies. And actually, before I put this on, I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And then we'll add in our spices. Okay, and with my clean hands, I'm going to give it a toss until all the veggies are coated. So I actually was inspired by this recipe from a cookbook that I found at a flea market at the beach one weekend. I was just kind of thumbing through some of their cookbooks, and I love to buy kind of older cookbooks, or, you know, cookbooks really that I've never seen before, and then get my inspiration from that. So The original recipe to this, you actually boil the sweet potatoes, and I thought, no way, I've got to roast them just to get that kind of caramelized flavor. So I haven't had this recipe before, but I think it's going to be delicious. And I can't think of a better like Thanksgiving side dish that's kind of unique and different. So I'm going to pop this into a 425-degree oven, and we're going to roast these for about 25 to 30 minutes. I am going to flip them halfway through. And then while that's happening, we're going to move over to the stove and get our couscous and our pecans going. So I have my large nonstick skillet here, and I'm going to be using this to cook the couscous as well, so I don't have to dirty another pan. So I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of olive oil. And then I have a half a cup of chopped up pecans, and I have this set at about a medium heat. And we're gonna add in some cayenne pepper. You're gonna wanna do about a 1/4 teaspoon. I don't want these to be like crazy spicy, so we'll just kind of eyeball this. I really should get the measuring spoon because you know me, I don't like it too spicy. But we want a little heat. Okay, that looks good. And then we're gonna add a pinch of salt. So at this point, we want to toast our pecans until they're kind of a golden brown or deep golden brown. This will take about 5 minutes. I can already smell the sweet potatoes and the onions in the oven. I love the smell of roasted onions, but I can smell those spices too. Definitely has the scent of the holidays right now in here. Okay, we'll let those hang out for a little bit and then we'll come back and give them a stir. All right, my pecans are nice and golden. I'm going to transfer them to a small plate. Okay, and while my pan is still good and hot, I'm going to add 2 cups of vegetable broth. You can also do chicken broth. So this is going to get kind of steamy. Or rather, it's going to get sizzly, not steamy. So I want to bring this to a boil, and once this comes to a boil, we're going to add in our couscous. Okay, vegetable broth is boiling. I'm going to add in 1 3/4 cup of couscous. I'm also going to do 1 tablespoon of olive oil. And then I'm just going to do a very light pinch of salt because the vegetable broth is already seasoned. So I'm just going to give this a quick little stir. And then I'm going to take this off the heat immediately and pop a lid on, and then we'll let it set for about 5 minutes. Okay, our veggies are ready to go. They're roasted. My couscous is done. You can see it absorbed all of the moisture. That's what I love about cooking couscous, is it's super fast. Okay, I'm gonna take my fork and just kind of go through and lightly break up. They're kind of stuck together a little bit. I'm gonna try not to scrape the bottom of my pan. You basically just fluff it like rice. Okay, now that all of this is fluffed, we're gonna add in all of our spiced pecans. I've got a 1/3 cup of dried cranberries. Then I've got like a handful of chopped cilantro. And I'll just use my spoon from before and mix all of this in. So the only thing left to do is I'm going to actually put this on a nice big platter, and then we're going to top it with our sweet potatoes and our onions. I'm going to drizzle on a little bit more olive oil just to make sure that everything stays nice and moist, and then we get to taste it. Looks so beautiful. I love it. I mean, if this doesn't say Thanksgiving or the holidays, I don't know what does. And it just smells so wonderful in my kitchen right now. I got to get like the perfect bite, a little bit of everything. I almost feel like I need a spoon. Okay, now that is just pure fun right there. This is delicious. It has like the perfect balance of the sweet, savory, a little bit of spice from the pecans. I definitely had high hopes for this recipe, but this definitely took me by surprise. And I just have to address something. I probably don't need to, but you know, we get readers on here who make wonderful, positive comments, and I love them all. Thank you. I've had readers make comments before about, well, does all your recipes taste amazing? Like, doesn't anything turn out bad? Well, everything I share on these videos, I would never share if it wasn't delicious. Like, it has to be 100% delicious. There isn't no like, it's okay, I'm gonna share it anyway. No, I never share anything that isn't approved by my taste buds. So There have been times that I have recorded a video, I've gotten done with the entire thing and tasted it and gotten on camera with you like this, well, not live, and take my bite and I'm like, no. So it does happen. I just don't share it. So, okay, now that we got that out of the way, I'm gonna take another bite because this is just fantastic. I hope that you make this for Thanksgiving or the holidays because your guests or your family will love kind of the yummy surprises in here. Like, that's what I feel like it is. It's a party on a plate. All right, so for our Southwestern cornbread salad, I pretty much have all the ingredients prepped. I started with the cornbread, and I'm just using a box of Jiffy cornbread mix. I followed the directions on the side of the box for the corn muffins, only I added 1 can of green chilies to kind of give it that little bit of Mexican flair. And then I baked them in a muffin pan. But you can definitely do like an 8 by 8 inch baking dish if you don't have a muffin pan. And then I just crumbled all of the muffins into little chunks like this. I also made my buttermilk ranch dressing. I used 1 packet of the Hidden Valley ranch seasoning mix, and then I did 1 cup of mayo and 1 cup of buttermilk. You can also do milk, but I kind of wanted that tang. And then I always like to add a little bit more pepper to it, mixed it up, really simple. You can definitely use a bottle of your favorite ranch dressing, or if you have a homemade ranch, you can do it that way. But you're gonna want about 2.5 cups or so of ranch dressing. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add half of my cornbread pieces to the bottom of my bowl here, and you're gonna want a pretty large bowl. I like to use a clear bowl just so you can see the layers, but just use whatever you have. I love making layered salads. I think they're so beautiful, and it's such a great thing to take to really any kind of holiday gathering. And cornbread, of course, is a good like Thanksgiving ingredient, so I think this will be good. Okay, and then for my next ingredient, I have 1 large romaine head that I'm going to use, and again, we're just going to do half of the lettuce down. So we're going to repeat this twice with all of the ingredients. So just do half of each ingredient. Okay, and then I used 2 large tomatoes. And next I have about 3/4 cup of green pepper. Okay, and then I have 1 can of black beans. I've rinsed and drained these, or drained and rinsed. You got to drain first and then rinse, right? And then I'm using this Mexican corn that does have green peppers and red peppers in it, but I never feel like it's enough. That's why I'm adding the green peppers. So I'll add half of that can down. And then I have an 8-ounce package of this Mexican cheese blend. I'll do half of this. Doesn't this look so fun? And then I have 5 green onion that I've sliced here. Okay, and then we're going to take half of our dressing and pour it over the green onions and cheese. And just kind of spread it out a little bit. Now, a lot of these Southwestern cornbread salads have bacon or other kinds of meat like chorizo, but I'm not going to do any meat. I'm just going to keep this as it is. Okay, and then we're just going to repeat with all of the rest of the ingredients. And it's going to look like your bowl isn't big enough. Well, unless you do choose a bowl that's not big enough, but it will all kind of settle down in there. You cannot tell me that does not look amazing. Okay, so I have to put this in the fridge for a couple of hours. That's the only bummer thing. I mean, we could eat it right now and it would be delicious, but it is better if the ingredients have a chance to sit, and this ranch will kind of seep down into the ingredients a little bit, and then we get to taste it. Okay, so like I said, this needs to sit in the fridge for a couple of hours. And I promise you the cornbread will not be soggy or drowned, in the ranch. This is absolutely fantastic. Like an amazing layered salad. The cornbread, it's where it's at. It's so delicious, and all the textures with the other ingredients, it's perfect. That ranch dressing, the buttermilk, so good. I know you're gonna love this. It'll be so fun to add something a little bit different if you've never had this before to your holiday table. I feel like I have ranch on my mouth. And everyone is going to rave about it. They're going to want the recipe and you're going to have it. You got to make this one. Okay, so for our whipped mashed potato casserole, we have to start by getting our potatoes going. And I just bought a 5-pound bag of potatoes at the grocery store, the yellow ones. These were much cheaper, and then I left in about a pound of potatoes because you're going to need about 4 pounds. You can certainly buy the bigger potatoes individually, but they were more expensive. The only downside is I had to peel and cut quite a few little potatoes. Okay, and then we're going to cut them into like little 1-inch cubes. We'll add them to our pot here. I do not have a large like stock pot. I am in the market for one, so I'm hoping that this will work. And then we need to add in some salt. I'm going to do about a tablespoon of salt. And then I'm going to fill up this pot here with cold water just until the potatoes are covered. Okay, I think this is going to work out. So I'm going to turn the heat on to about a medium high. I don't want this to be like a rolling boil. You just want kind of a light medium boil. And we'll cook the potatoes for about 15 minutes, really until they're fork tender. And while that happens, we're going to get our brown butter going on the stove. Okay, and then to my saucepan, I have 1.5 sticks of salted butter. You can also do unsalted butter, but you'll need to adjust the seasonings in your potatoes. So we're going to set this on like a medium heat. And as you can see, it's already starting to melt a little bit. Once it's completely melted, it's going to start sizzling, and you definitely want to continue to kind of whisk and stir it because it's going to brown pretty quickly. And then once it's got kind of that deep golden brown and smells kind of nutty almost, you want to pull it off the heat. So we're going to do that. Our potatoes are going, and then we'll just keep moving along here. Okay, I'm going to add my butter, my brown butter, immediately after it's done browning to, you want to do like a heat-proof bowl. And then we are just going to let this cool while we get together the rest of the ingredients. All right, our potatoes are nice and steamy. I actually added these to a larger bowl because obviously my pot was not big enough, but you can definitely, if you have a big enough pot, just put them back in there and mix everything together. So we're going to use a full cup of half and half, but I'm just going to start with a 1/2 cup in my potatoes. And I'm going to use my hand blender here. We are going to blend our potatoes, or beat the potatoes, whatever you want to call it, until they're somewhat smooth. These look pretty good. Now we need to add in our egg yolks. Oh, and you know what? Before I forget, I am actually going to turn my broiler on to high, and I set the rack about 3 shelves down, so it'll be about 8 inches from the top heat. You definitely don't want it really, really close to the broiler. So let me get that turned on. Hopefully the fan doesn't get too loud on the oven. We're going to add in 3 egg yolks, and I'm going to do them one at a time. And what the egg yolks do is it creates kind of a velvety smoothness. It gives it really good texture and richness. So I think it's definitely necessary, and I'm only doing 3 for this recipe. Okay, and now we're going to finish up with the rest of the ingredients. So I've got our brown butter. What you want to avoid is the little brown bits at the bottom of the bowl there. You can see that. You don't want that going in to the potatoes. Just that smooth butter. And then we're going to add in some seasonings. I have 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, and I'm just doing a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder just for a touch of garlic flavor, not much though. We're also going to add in 1 cup of sharp cheddar cheese, and I'm using the Tillamook extra sharp cheddar because I really want these to be nice and cheesy and rich. You can also do Parmesan cheese, but I'm not a big fan of Parmesan in mashed potatoes. We also need to add in the rest of our half and half, so another 1/2 cup. These are just so rich, you guys, but it is Thanksgiving, so. Okay, so we are just going to gently mix the rest of these ingredients together until it's well combined and it's nice and creamy. And then the only thing left to do is I'm going to add my potatoes to my casserole dish. I've greased it really well with nonstick cooking spray. And then, like I said, I have my broiler set on high. We're going to pop that in there. It'll probably take about 5 minutes to kind of toast and get nice and golden on top. And then we'll top it with some chopped up chives, and then we get to taste it. I just dished myself up a teensy little bit because we are going to be eating this for dinner tonight. Oh my gosh, like the scent in my kitchen right now with that brown butter and then the potatoes going under the broiler is just heaven. And they're so creamy and fluffy. It's why they call them whipped. They're just like pillows. It's like a cloud. What other way could I describe these? Okay, let's give them a try. Okay, I've shared a lot of potato dishes on this channel. I mean, these are just next level, phenomenal, like fancy, fancy restaurant worthy potatoes. But so easy to put together. And I think it'll be fun to have something just a little bit more decadent for the Thanksgiving table. These are so good. I hope that you give these a try and make sure that you definitely brown the butter because that is a really important step. It really gives these potatoes like depth of flavor. And then that cheddar cheese in there. These are just phenomenal. For our harvest fruit salad, we're going to start by getting our dressing together. So I have a saucepan here. I'm going to add a half a cup of orange juice. And then I also have 1 lemon zested. I'm going to use that juice in the fruit. And then I have about 3 of my cuties that I zested. I'll also use the segments from those cuties. We're going to add in a 1/4 teaspoon of apple pie spice. Now, if you don't have apple pie spice and you have pumpkin spice, then use that instead. It will still be delicious. Really, the only difference between apple pie spice and pumpkin pie spice is apple pie has the cardamom in it and sometimes cloves. So you can always add some cardamom. And then I have 3 tablespoons of honey. All right, I'll give this a little mix here. Okay, I'm gonna place this on the stove and we're gonna bring it to just a simmer and we'll let it simmer about 3 or 4 minutes. You really just want the honey to dissolve and the ingredients to kind of marry together. So while that happens, I'm gonna start getting some of my fruit ready. Okay, I'm gonna take a little pause from the fruit and I'm gonna strain my dressing in this bowl here just to get rid of like the pulp and some of the seasoning. So just use whatever you have on hand. This is my only fine strainer that I have. But you can see like all that extra stuff, you don't want that in with the salad. But it smells so delicious. I mean, talk about my house smells like fall right now with the pecans toasting on the stove and this stuff. Oh man, it's gonna be so good. And really important, we want to let this mixture cool before we add it to the fruit, but I do still have some of the fruit to prepare. So probably by the time I'm done with all that, then we can pull this salad together. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do before we pull all the salad together is I'm going to add my apples. So I did about 2 medium-sized red apples. And then I also did 2 green pears, just to have that red and green color, but you can also do green apples. So I'm going to add those to the bowl, and then we're going to add a whole lemon over the top of these just to keep them from browning. Or whole lemon juice is what I meant. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to give this a toss. This is such a fun thing to offer to the holiday table or Thanksgiving table. Just something a little bit lighter and refreshing because everything else is so rich and delicious and heavy. A nice fresh fruit salad, I feel like, is usually pretty welcomed, especially with the kiddos. I have 2 cups of sliced red grapes. And then I ended up doing about 7 of the cuties. You can also do oranges. It's a little bit easier, but I like the size of these little cuties here. So if you have these in the grocery store, and they're really easy to peel, and they're seedless, so that's nice. And then I also have a half a cup of dried cranberries. I have 1 cup of chopped pecans. These are cooled, and I just toasted these in a dry skillet over medium heat until they were toasted, basically. I'll add those in. I'm also going to sprinkle in 2 teaspoons of poppy seeds. I thought that would be a really fun add, and it will look really pretty with a little flecks in there. Okay, and then we have our dressing. It is completely cooled. Very simple, and you could definitely add other fruits that you like. Kiwis would be good. You could do some pomegranates, that would be kind of fun. Or if you don't like pecans, you could do walnuts or even slivered almonds. So you can really have fun with this fruit salad. But I just think that this looks so fall and harvesty, perfect for Thanksgiving. All right, this is ready to taste. Check this out. Isn't that so beautiful? How fun. You know what? I think I'm gonna actually dump some of this out because I already know I'm probably gonna spill it on the floor. Definitely want a little pecan in there. Did you hear that? All right. All right, here we go. I almost blew on it because I'm so used to making something hot. Okay, let's give it a try. So juicy and fresh. And the dressing just gives it a little pop of flavor, a teensy bit of sweetness with the honey. And then the toasted pecans, I feel like definitely make it. Gives it a little crunch. I also like the texture of the dried cranberries. That's kind of fun. This is delicious. A fun thing to serve at your Thanksgiving table. I think you and your guests are really gonna enjoy it. Well, thank you for watching. I really enjoyed spending time with you today. I hope you found some inspiration, whether you're gonna be hosting or going to somebody's house. You'll have something yummy that you can make and take and everyone's gonna love. Don't forget, all the recipe links can be found in the descriptions. And if you're new here, I'd love for you to be part of my YouTube family, so make sure to subscribe. I hope you have a really blessed week, and we will see you next time.